Welcome back to the burn, everybody. Hope everybody's having a good week. I am Ryan Van Deaver, and I am joined by Jordan Van Deaver. How's it going, man?
It's going good. We just watched March Madness.
Wasn't
Some crazy
wasn't too
games out
much
there.
madness going on this year. I
Yeah,
think,
there was some teams that should have won, and they got
yeah,
blown out.
I think NIL is starting to catch up with all these mid-major Cinderellas. It's just not gonna happen very often anymore. But we are joined to you by Hot Zone Sports, as you know, the information that you need, built with you in mind, for the people, by the people, and with the people. Join the Hot Zone Sports community today. We just surpassed 30,000 followers on Facebook. Just amazing. Thank you for all the support. I know you love the reels that I push out. The one I pushed out yesterday was absolutely ridiculous. Sometimes when you steal the ball with 3 seconds left, you should just hold it and not try to go and get a layup because you're going to get launched 10 feet. But remember, our show is wherever you get your podcast, Apple, Spotify. So if you could rate and review us, do you boy a favor and go ahead and do it. If you're watching on YouTube, subscribe to the show and hit that notification button so you know when our content drops. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about this episode. We're going to be getting into Dan Hurley. Is he the biggest villain in college basketball? I would have to say we got to at least talk about it. Paul Skenes, the one of one rookie card sold for more than he's going to make in this season alone. I guess being in Los Angeles doesn't make you a Pirates fan after all. KU basketball, their season ended. We're going to talk about it, and it's not going to be pretty. Well, it's not going to be pretty for him. Oh, him. Yeah, him over there. Somewhere over there. I
Not pretty.
don't know. And then we're going to talk about some NFL free agency. Jameis Winston signed with the Giants. So that takes the Giants out of the running for Aaron Rodgers. What do you think? Is Jameis Winston going to be a bridge quarterback, or is he just going to be the guy for a couple years because he signed a 2 year contract? We will discuss that. But moving on to KU, the KU season came to an end. You don't see this very often. The last time they were knocked out in the first round was in 2006. For those math majors out there, that's 19 years. So, what went wrong? I mean, turnovers, turnovers, and turnovers. This has been a long issue for the Jayhawks this season. When they're on, they are on. They are one of the better teams in the nation. But man, when they are off kilter, it is not good. They had 16 turnovers and their 79-72 loss to the Razorbacks. Once again, it's easy to see what went wrong in this game.
Yeah, the turnovers were a big impact on the game. I mean, they were leading in 80% of the categories. Field goal percentage, shots made, 3-point percentage. I mean, they were leading in all of those. It was a close game until the Razorbacks pulled off. And then close game again. There was 8 lead changes.
See, It was a close game, but really, man, it's just it's just hard to amplify how important it is to just not have turnovers. A big factor in this loss was when the Jayhawks went when they were leading 67 to 64 as the game closed in on 3 minutes. And we're going to show you a video on this that just delves into how it all happened. But there was 3 minutes remaining in the second half, and then KJ Adams went down. It appeared to be a lower leg injury when we saw it. Um, he had to be helped off the court. So I think we all knew at that moment in time he wasn't going to return to the game. He went to the locker room and he never returned. But Kansas had appeared to be doing just enough to get by Arkansas late. The Jayhawks looked like they had the momentum despite their early struggles, especially as the second half began, but they couldn't overcome Adams' departure.
Yeah, KU fans talk about Dickinson, but I think he was the leading factor late. I think coach was looking to him to lead them to the win. But Dickinson, he wasn't doing great. I mean, he tried to hit that three late in the game. It was just a brick. You can't say anything else about that.
Yeah, it was. We'll show it in the video, but oh my gosh, if he would have actually hit that, or if they would have went a different direction, it would probably would have been a different outcome. At least they would have had the opportunity to take it overtime or win in a close battle. But it's one of those things. I saw a crazy stat after the loss. I actually posted about it. Um, but ever since Dickinson has left Michigan, the Jayhawks have been 2-2 in the NCAA tournament.
He struggled against the Razorbacks. He couldn't get anything started in the paint. He couldn't shoot. I mean, he was just letting everything go through the paint for the Razorbacks. There was no defense in the paint. It was just awful.
Yeah, I mean this since Kansas' national title run in 2022, the Jayhawks have fallen short of even reaching the Sweet 16 of the NCAA tournament with each successive trip, back to back exits in the round of 32 and 23 and 24, with the 2023 loss coming against Arkansas. And now their latest NCAA tournament trip will be even shorter than those. The loss shouldn't sting like the one in 2023. That team was absolutely ridiculously stacked. This KU team didn't really have the same potential to make a deep run like that Jayhawk squad did, even though they were preseason ranked number one. But given this season's team preseason expectations, it's definitely not going to be easy to overlook. But I think this question needs to be asked, and it's a ridiculous question given Bill Self's track record, but do you think it's time for him to step away?
I think as a coach, there's times to step away, but I I think that he needs to make a comeback with the Jayhawks after this playing in the playoffs. He needs to come back. He needs to make a bigger name for himself.
I mean, he's got a big name. I just think that he didn't have the squad that he needed. From the perimeter all season, they had struggled. Hunter Dickinson he's not the same guy from Michigan. When he was at Michigan, he was just a beast. And it's like as soon as he walked into those doors, it could have been karma with him talking all that stuff on social media saying how great Kansas is going to be. It could have been karma. I don't know. But all I know is the Jayhawks can breathe a sigh of relief because Hunter Dickinson and this season is over and gone.
Yeah, me and well, I can't say I expected a lot from him against the Razorbacks. I didn't expect him to get over 16 points. But I think if he wants to be drafted looking forward, he should have made just a slighter big run in the playoffs. I mean, NBA teams want to see you win, but there wasn't much winning in those playoffs. He struggled against the Razorbacks, and you can be good in the NBA without scoring any points, but you got to be good at defense too.
Yeah.
I mean, we heard the saying, "Defense wins championships." Defense did not win a championship here.
No, not even close. Let's go ahead and watch these final 3 minutes and just see how they played out. And you'll see the Hunter Dickinson three, and it was not even close. It didn't even hit the back room.
Dickinson, bad pass. Flan takes it the other way. Boogie lays it in. It might be time for Arkansas to send 4 guys to the offensive glass, too. Maybe that'll help them get a rebound. Adu is fouled. Dickinson tried to sneak a pass into Mayo, who turns it over for the Jayhawks. And they got to reverse the ball. Davis for shot. 3. Good! Timeout, Kansas. To go. Storr is fouled. Wow. Got to move it. 13 seconds. Now, how are you going to get a shot against zone? You're going to go. You can't go one-on-one. You're going to go one-on-5. 1 minute to go. Shot clock at 5. Davis goes to the ground. That's a travel and a turnover. You got to think Dickinson's going to get a touch in the low block. Has to. There it is, but it's taken away by Davis. And then a foul is called. Makes them both. Boogie Flan, great defense on Mayo, fighting for it, a tie-up, and it will stay with Kansas. Same with 4 fouls now.
All right, so right here, you see Hunter Dickinson wide open. But I just don't think that is a good shot. I understand you want a 3, you're down by 4 points, but it's not going to be a good opportunity. It's not going to be a good possession for you right there. Hunter Dickinson, yeah, he can shoot the 3, but he's not lighting it up. He didn't light it up all season long, so I don't know why they just don't come up with a different set right there. I mean, you still got 13 seconds left on the clock.
Yeah, obviously you want the ball back because you're still going to be down 1 if you shoot that 3. But I think he should have passed it to, I would say, Mayo. I mean, he was hitting 3s all game. He's
Yeah.
the most accurate shooter on the team. I would have given it to Mayo. I mean, I was astonished when Dickinson shot that. I knew that was going to be, it was going to be a brick.
I mean, there's 2 players right there. And they didn't even care to guard him. I understand there was a pick there, and one of those players is being picked right now. But let's just go ahead and watch the rest of this, see how this unfolds. I think we all know how it unfolds.
Here's Dickinson, 4-3. No good, and rebound to Brazil. They got a foul. Shot clock turned off. There's the foul. Arkansas has 2 fouls against him. You don't want to let them roll it. When they cross half court, you should foul them. There's the foul. It's before I foul. I let him cross half court. I wouldn't just grab him there. Now I foul. Mayo trying to get open. Over to Griffin for 3. Good. Free throw shooters. Oh, and Plan will call timeout. Jeffrey Anderson just told him. Still not running. He's standing still. And he uses another timeout. This time Wagner, he can run. Oh, I like what they just did there. That's the plan. Davis is fouled. Davis makes a pair. Loss in the first round since 2006. Out of bounds with 0.8 on.
And that's a wrap on that one. It's just, and another thing that was just, it blew my mind when it was live was the whole inbounding issue. Like, they waited 2 times. They burned 2 timeouts, the Razorbacks did, until they actually got it right. How long does it take for you to realize that the guy that is trying to inbound the ball, he's not cut out for that job? God.
I mean, they could have gone near the sideline. I mean, they could have got other guy to inbound it, just like you said. But either way, it was late game. They were down. Kansas was down. They didn't need those timeouts either way, I guess. But
Yeah. I mean, if KU would have played smarter basketball, then they probably could have. I am gonna go back to that Hunter Dickinson set all day. I understand you're supposed to have confidence in your players and all that, but you also have to be aware of the game and how it's being played out. He wasn't exactly dominating the game. He's not Steph Curry. He's not going to drain it from anywhere on the court. No matter if he's wide open or not. Just like you said, you should have gone to Mayo. You should have set a screen for him because he was actually balling the entire game.
he was 3 for 3 in the first half.
Yeah. Well, and let's just go ahead and move on from KU. I think we've talked about them enough at nauseum. Dan Hurley. So this UConn head coach, he held back tears in the post-game interview with CBS and on the podium. He also shared choice, heated words with Baylor in the tunnel before the Bears took the court against Duke. He wasn't mad at Baylor, but the subject of his issues appeared to be with the officials who oversaw Florida's 77-75 win over UConn. Those issues were granted. We watched the game. We got it. But, that game was a thriller that was in balance until the final minute and ended UConn's hopes for that three-peat. But here's what Hurley had to say as he exited the tunnel following the loss as Baylor waited to take his place on the floor for those pregame warm-ups. Warning. If you got little kids in the room, this language is not safe for work. But I was going to show the video, but I think you can all use your imagination. Quote, I hope they don't F you like they effed us, Baylor. I really hope they don't. Danny Hurley to Baylor walking off the floor after a slugfest loss to top seed Florida. He was definitely talking about the officiating. Looking back on the Duke Baylor game, I don't think that they had an issue with the officiating whatsoever. But this isn't the first outburst from Hurley, who's held little back this season since coaching UConn to its second straight NCAA championship.
I mean, you can't say Hurley's a good coach. but a good coach has to show. He has to be a good role model for his players. If you don't want your players being all egotistic like he is every season, I mean, you gotta you can't yell and cuss at the refs or fans every game, every season. Can't do that.
Well, I think another issue that we're running into with Hurley is the fact that he's just so abrasive that you don't really know what he's doing in the background. All you know as a fan or as a reporter is what you see in front of you, meaning the games. So let's just go back to this year, okay? This isn't the first outburst from Hurley, who's held back little this season since, coaching uh, to the second straight championship. He taunted Creighton fans after a win in February, going as far as to dub one Baldy, apparently unconcerned about the stat of his own hairline. Two rings, two rings, two rings, Baldy, Hurley proclaimed with a finger point.
I mean, he just shows other coaches, other teams, they shouldn't be nice to him. I mean, they shouldn't respect him. Nobody's going to respect a coach that just mouths out everything that's in his head. And we see coaches get mad at refs and fans. I mean, they just don't mouth it out like he does. I don't think he really cares.
Two rings, Baldy. Let's go, man.
Now, in January, Hurley berated officials during a win over Butler. And, I mean, come on, it's Butler. I get it. It's January, but he appeared to say this to one referee: "Don't turn your back on me. I'm the best effing coach in the sport." Let's go ahead and watch this one. There is no sound. I'm pretty sure you can figure out what he's saying. Now, his response to these comments were not exactly great.
I think TV got you saying something like, "Don't turn your back on me, I'm the best coach in."
Did I say that? No. Yeah. I mean, I know we I'm going to sound like an asshole here. So the TV likes me, camera. I bet you I'm going to have the GAs. I'll release it to the media too. What was the game on today? It was on FS1. I just, I just wish they'd put the camera on the other coach more. Obviously I had a moment with Coach Dad Mata today because he was so far out of the box that I figure I would just go over and have a powwow with him and Pat. But like I just wish they would show these other coaches losing their minds at the officials in other Big East games that I'm coaching, where I look going into a timeout when I'm not talking to officials. I see the other coaches as demonstrative as I am. But, the camera, obviously, I've created this for myself. I'm not no victim. But I just wish that they would not have the camera on me 90% of the time, unless they feel like it's driving ratings, and more assholes on Twitter that could put clips of me from a game and say, yeah, look how big of a monster he is. He's yelling at a ref again. What a monster.
Here's the thing. The camera is not on you 90% of the time. The camera is only on you when you actually are losing your mind. That is when the camera is on you. The big issue that I see here is you're supposed to be a leader of men, I wouldn't even, a leader of men, a mentor. You're supposed to lead these guys. And what kind of example are you setting? I know, old guy talking here. You know, old guy. What example are you setting for these young men that are on your team that you recruited, that you grabbed from the transfer portal, that you're saying, okay, well, this is all right. So what happens when one of your players snaps and gets in a referee space? What are you going to do about that?
I mean, he's just teaching his players to react like they can. I mean, let's say one of his players gets mad at a ref. What will happen if he starts cussing at a ref like he does to the refs? It's going to be a tech. They're going to call that tech on them. He can either not say things that are coming straight from the stats, or he can just coach. I mean, you're called a coach for a reason. You're supposed to coach your players, not teach them things they don't need to know.
To ICT Sports, Hurley is a bum. I won't say he's a bum, but I will say that he's not the greatest coach. If he wants to come out and call himself the best coach in college basketball, um, you're not. You didn't get past the Sweet 16. You didn't make it to the Sweet 16. How can you call yourself the best coach? I don't think. I think Shire, he's on that list. There's multiple other coaches that are on the list that are actually still in the tournament. Granted, yes, you went back to back. We get all that. That doesn't make you the best coach now. It did last season when you actually went back to back, but now I wouldn't say you're the best coach.
No, I wouldn't say he's the best. I mean, win percentage, there's few coaches above him. If we want to say who was in the tournament, which obviously UConn was in the tournament, but you can say John Calipari. I mean, he has a better win percentage, more wins in his career. He can't be calling himself the best coach if he's treating fans like that. If he's treating refs like that, he's setting a bad example. You don't see a lot of these great coaches in the tournament yelling at the refs like he is.
Yeah, and there were actually two other occasions this season where he lost his so called cool. I'm not going to share those videos because I think I've already made my point to where he's calling out the officials. Hurley isn't one to hold back. He didn't on Sunday against, you know, uh, he didn't on Sunday as UConn season came to an end. You know, he lost to Florida. Well, we'll now have to wait until next season to hear what Hurley has to say next, but I'm sure it's not going to be very complimentary. But the last question that I have for you is Dan Hurley the biggest villain in college basketball?
I mean, I'm sure there's bigger villains than him, but on a coach standpoint, you could put him up there. I mean, he's not treating the fans well. He's not treating other coaches well at this point. Not the refs. I mean, the refs make bad calls. We've all seen that as sports fans, but you can't shout at the refs just because you see another coach walking up to a ref. I mean, I couldn't be the only one that has heard this saying, two wrongs don't make a right.
ICT Sports says he is the biggest villain. Nobody likes him. Refs, teams, fans. Yeah, you're pretty on point there. Um, yeah, it's just if this is the way you coach, and if this is the way you're going to continue to talk to referees, I feel bad for you because the referees, it's kind of like, okay, I'll say LeBron James. All right. Before the flopping rule came out, he was flopping a lot. And he kind of made a name for himself when it came to the flopping and when it came to the occasional crying. But the biggest issue was he had already made a name for himself. And same thing with Hurley here. He's making a name for himself. And so now officials are going to know what to look for. And who knows what they'll do. Maybe they give him a tech, if if he yells at him right out the gates, and then another tech right after that, and then maybe he's ejected. We don't know.
I mean, you got to think of your consequences as a coach for that. I mean, we obviously know the consequences of a player if he shouts at a ref. You'll either get a you'll either get a warning or you'll get a tech. Most likely, you'll get a tech every time. But as a coach, you'd be out of there, or I mean, you could just be out of there. It'd just be a bad impact on your players. I mean, everybody's gonna see you as the leader on the team, but what are they gonna think of your players if you're acting like that?
Yeah, it's a it's a it's a big issue. Oh, okay. Yeah, we're back, rearing and ready to go. Dan Hurley's got us hot. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and move on to Paul Skenes. His rookie card last week officially sold. The price tag for this was $1.11 million, is a record for a Skenes card who has become one of the most popular players in all of baseball. I know when he was coming up, I actually became a fan, and I am not a Pittsburgh fan. I am an Atlanta Braves fan, if anybody wants to know. Um, Man, I wish he was on the Braves. But this rare card also sold for more than Skenes' $875,000 salary that he's going to make this season. But this past Christmas, an 11-year-old Dodgers fan ended up pulling the Skenes card after Skenes himself had begun to search for it, who received a hobby box of Topps Chrome Update as a Christmas gift. The Pirates went public before the card was pulled with an incredible offer that included 30 years worth of season tickets, a meet and greet with Skenes, a pair of signed jerseys, and private PNC Park tours to whoever found it. Skenes' girlfriend, a very popular LSU gymnast, Livy Dunn, also offered to host whoever landed the card in her suite for a Pirates game.
I
So
mean,
the biggest the biggest issue here is how much they actually offered this 11-year-old kid.
obviously they're gonna want that card.
Yeah, it wasn't just all that. You have a softball game for 30 at PNC Park, plus coaching from Pirates alumni, a spring training experience like no other, private tour of the Pirate City and Lecom Park, the meet and greet with Paul Skenes, just everything. You can take batting practice and warm up with the team. I would have to say, I wonder if, let's say, the Braves or the Mets or the Yankees. I would be curious if a fan from either of these teams, if they would have pulled this card, if they would have taken the offer from one of those teams. It's just, I don't know. It's just crazy.
Yeah, that's crazy coming from, I think you said, a Dodgers fan. Having that once in a lifetime card, I mean, it's the only card out there like that one. I wouldn't expect it to go under 1 million because of the rookie season he had. I mean, he broke a Pirates record for most strikeouts in a season.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not going to be that hard either way, but still, still a great season. He made the All Stars too.
Yeah, as a rookie. Um, let's. So, who was this mystery buyer? The internet will always find you. It doesn't matter if you're an anonymous buyer or not. Well, none other than Dick's Sporting Goods, the retail giant based out of Pittsburgh, plans to keep the card local but by displaying it at their House of Sport store inside Pittsburgh's Rose Park Mall. The card is an addition to the growing memorabilia display that sits towards the middle of their Ross Park store. So it's just shows right here that the retail giant appeared to be making a shift into being a collectible space. So, just moving on here, it's this is what it shows here, talking about the retail giant, and then if anybody wants to see what the card looks like, have that right here. It is the one of one. Only one of these cards was made. This card was found in one lucky pack. Can you imagine finding this card? Oh my gosh. That's a life changer right there, my guy. But anyway, Skenes, he had an incredible season. I can't remember the last time I actually was excited about a player that didn't play for my team. Like I was obviously excited for Ronald Acuna when they called him up when the Braves organization did, but when it came to Paul Skenes, like he did not spend that long in Double A or Triple A, and I don't remember happening that fast for a pitcher. I mean, just look at the video game, MLB the show. And basically got to spend a season in there just to make it to the majors.
I mean, I spent half seasons.
You don't got to lie to the audience. All right, let's go ahead and move on to some NFL free agency news. Jameis Winston, he went to the Giants. The New York Giants and quarterback Jameis Winston agreed to a 2-year deal last week that could be worth up to $16 million in incentives. This is obviously a bridge quarterback situation, but who better than Jameis Winston? He is going to bring that locker room together more than Russell Wilson, who's also a free agent, more than he will. And if Wilson would he even mentor a first round pick quarterback? Like the Giants are selecting at number 3. Who knows if the Browns pick a quarterback because they always do wild things a lot of the time. One of the worst run organizations in the NFL. No, that's not a hot take. That is just a smooth fact right there. The Browns could easily draft Abdul Carter, though. Just imagine pairing Carter with Miles Garrett it would give them bookends for the next 5 years. So the Browns obviously have options here. But what is more important, a quarterback or a defensive end? When you go up against Joe Burrow and Lamar Jackson twice per year.
I mean, you can either stack up on defense or you can possibly get your starting franchise quarterback. We never know how good a quarterback's going to do off of college, or then the NFL. But I think since, yeah, you said they have to face Joe Burrow, they got to face Lamar Jackson. You're gonna want to stack that defense. I mean, this year's not a terribly strong class with quarterbacks. I don't think personally. I mean, think a lot of these quarterbacks are hyped up. I'm not gonna give names, but Shadir Sanders. But I think they should. I'd grab a Dale Carter. I mean, I've seen that guy play.
Yeah, SGA for MVP. He says take Abdul Carter. I don't know. I he had Abdul Carter had 23 sacks in his career, but you could see just how big of a monster he was. You know, when they played Notre Dame in their final game, you could see how much havoc he was creating in that backfield. Like he just looks like a monster. And pairing him with Miles Garrett, who's still in his prime, he's gonna be in his prime for probably another 5 years. Like that could be pretty dangerous. And you can always get, Russell Wilson or, Carson Wentz. I know I'm crazy for saying that, but there's still quarterbacks that could be serviceable for the Browns. But I mean, come on. The Browns are not a Super Bowl team.
I mean, they haven't been a Super Bowl team in a while. I mean, obviously they thought they had something with Deshaun Watson. Then all that stuff happened. I think we all know what that was. But I think if they do get a veteran quarterback, that could service them for maybe a year or two until they can draft a quarterback that is able to carry the team. I won't say carry, but by that time, they might have a solid team. You never know how serious the Browns are going to take the off season, free agency. I mean, they can grab plenty of players on free agency. They had a decent cap size, but I think either way, a veteran quarterback would be good.
Facts. Don't take a quarterback. That's where quarterbacks go to die, says Braves lifer. Well, they have a very long history. I don't know if you remember this, but just a few years back, you would see this jersey with just a bunch of tape, like 20 pieces of tape on it, with all the different quarterbacks, they had, dating back to Tim Couch, like all the way back. Like, I don't know. Just go ahead and look at the organization. You drafted Baker Mayfield, and he has turned into a successful quarterback after you got rid of him. Like at some point, you're gonna have to take a look at this organization and be like, okay, this is where quarterbacks go to die. But Baker Mayfield, he he was resuscitated, and now he's making bank and doing pretty well in Tampa.
I mean, I know it's a team where all quarterbacks go to die, but they need a quarterback. I mean, they can't sit there with these quarterbacks they got right now. I mean, they need a quarterback. It doesn't have to be a good one because right now I think they're just trying to rebuild. I don't know if they're trying to, but they need to.
You know, if Shadur is there, I'm going to expect the Giants to take him in that spot. I don't think Shadur is going to fall any further than 3. But keep in mind, you have Travis Hunter there too. And then you just signed Jameis Winston. Travis Hunter and Neighbors. I don't know. That's going to be a tough choice to pick. Like, are you going to go after Travis Hunter, or are you going to go after a quarterback, which is a need, and we all know how quarterbacks work out. We don't. Scouts have proven that over decades, but from all rumors, it's looking like Cam Ward, he's going to end up going to the Titans. But, you know, I've seen crazy things happen in the draft. I just don't know how crazy it's going to be, in the top 3. But you're also going to have teams that are going to try to get in the top 5 or maybe even the top 3 to snatch up Shador Sanders.
Hey, you never know what's going to happen in the draft. I mean, it would be crazy if the Giants got Travis Hunter. I mean, since they got Jameis Winston, they could stick with him for a year or 2, and they could just stack up the receiver spot. But I think their main need is quarterback. It's been that for years. And when they had Danny Dimes, the Giants fans sure thought that was the guy, I guess. But they need a quarterback. That's like their main need right now. I don't think they should pick up a wide receiver early. Maybe in a late round.
Yeah.
Second or third.
Well, most of the NFL free agency is practically speaking done. It has been done for about a week now. There are some veteran wide receivers still deciding on their next team. Some 31-year-olds, some 30-year-olds. You got Stephon Diggs still out there, and other veterans who can contribute, but there's not much left among the top free agents. And then there's Aaron Rodgers. Rodgers is taking his sweet little time in making a decision that gets more curious or obnoxious depending on your perspective on things because he doesn't have many options left. But there are still teams and players that need to hear what Rodgers' decision is before mapping out their next moves. And there hasn't been much indication of what Rodgers will do. Like it or not, though, it's not like a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers has a lot of choices. They have to wait. At this point, if you're the Steelers, would you even want him on your team? Crazy to say, I know, but he is the human, and the Steelers are the marionette pulling the strings. It's the Steelers or retirement.
I mean, obviously the Aaron Rodgers has a lot of experience. I mean, that guy's 40. About. I think so.
41.
41.
You were
Oh,
close. Good job.
thank you. Um, but based on his injuries in the past, I mean, sorry Jets fan, but he got injured. But I think if the Steelers do pick him up, he's not going to be a starter. Obviously, he's going to be a mentor to whoever the starting quarterback will be. I think Aaron Rodgers is a little too old to start. I mean, we saw Tom Brady start, but I mean, it's the Buccaneers. They didn't really have nothing.
Tom Brady was a unicorn. And I know many people call Aaron Rodgers a unicorn, but I don't know. I continue to say that Aaron Rodgers in his last 10 games with the Jets, he had a 90 plus QBR. On the Jets.
I mean, he's got Conklin. I mean, he had slight weapons on the Jets. I mean, just not a lot of weapons on the Jets. That kind of opened his resume for the teams in free agency. I don't think many teams would have wanted him before that. Like if he went below 90 for the rest of the season, I think the offers would decrease. But over 90, a lot of quarterbacks haven't done that. Last season, I mean, We saw Zach Wilson play worse than him, and he's in his 20s. So
Yeah, I mean, you know, there's also another option if by chance Aaron Rodgers does want to wait until like training camp or preseason to see if JJ McCarthy doesn't look like the Vikings believe he should look like, then there's going to be questions with the Titans quarterback position. Is Cam Ward going to be ready? He's the most ready quarterback in the draft. So you would think he'd be ready, but this whole situation is just it's just odd to me. You spend over 6 hours with the Steelers over the weekend and you walk away from signing the contract when the contract was offered, when there aren't that many suitors. Like Russell Wilson is also undecided, perhaps because the Steelers they might have to reunite with him if Rodgers doesn't sign with him. If Rodgers goes to the Steelers, the Browns could be in play for Russell Wilson. The Atlanta Falcons, they still have Kirk Cousins. Are they gonna want to unload Kirk Cousins? Other veterans like Carson Wentz, they're still in a bit of a holding pattern too. But unless the Steelers draft a prospect like Jackson Dart, the Steelers are just putting a band aid on this massive bleeding situation.
yeah, I think they saw something in Jackson Dart. I think they explained that, but they could they could pick up an O guy. I mean, some experience. But you have Metcalf on the Steelers. He's aging. He's not old yet, but he's aging. Then you have Pickens. Then you have Freiermuth, and then you have a good O line. I mean, you got a good team. You need a quarterback, but I think they should draft Jackson Dart. I think he can develop into a decent quarterback. I mean, he's got some athleticism. I just I just don't know.
I mean, there's Jacoby Brissett. Steelers could go after him. Joe Flacco, another 40-year-old quarterback. You could go after him. I don't see that would be a good plan. Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of players left. You got Drew Lock, he's unsigned. Case Keenum, Teddy Bridgewater, Tim Boyle, and CJ Beathard. Like, you got Sam Alinger. He played with the Colts. He was basically the third string guy. Easton Stick. I mean, basically the rest of them are unnamed. Jeff Driscoll, Josh Johnson, Brett Rippon. I don't think Brett Rippon has sniffed a field in quite some time. But yeah, it's crazy, man. Like what what are you gonna do if you are the Steelers at this point? You're basically in limbo right now, waiting for Aaron Rodgers just to do anything. But I don't know. Going back to the Steelers, and you were talking about TK Metcalf. Here's the thing. I don't know if they keep Pickens if they re-sign him. Like, yes, he's talented, but do they want to continuously deal with the headache? Like, let's just look at the track history. You got AB, probably the best 6-year stretch as a wide receiver. They let him go.
Not a great history with wide receivers in the Steelers, but I think that whoever does end up being the starting quarterback for the Steelers, he should have those two weapons. Having DK and Pickens on the other side, I think would be a good fit for a rookie quarterback. If they do decide to draft a rookie, I think the rookie could develop into a good quarterback if he has those weapons on his side. Well,
Yeah.
he's obviously got the defense. And I mean, we see a lot of quarterbacks achieve great things with great defense. I mean, I don't mean to pick on Tom Brady, but he had a good defense.
Yeah, I mean, another wide receiver who was just becoming to be too much of a headache was Chase Claypool. You know, they got rid of him as well. And so, one thing you say about the Steelers is if you become too much of a headache, they're going to cut ties from you. And they did it with AB, they did it with Claypool, and they could ultimately end up doing it with Pickens as well.
Yeah, Pickens is a large headache. I mean, he's been a toxic player for years since he got drafted.
Yeah.
He just thinks he's bigger than everyone and he can do whatever he wants. I mean, it's good to have that mindset that you're bigger than everyone. If you're a wide receiver, you're going to want to have that winner's mentality. That guy wants to win.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot like dang it. It's a lot like Cooper Cup, right? Cooper Cup and the Rams. Uh, the Rams were just they were just tired of being in limbo. Use that phrase again. Being in limbo with Cooper Cup's health. Like he's an aging wide receiver, and he hasn't been healthy for the past couple of years. And so I look at this as kind of like a stock up type deal. You're playing the stock market. Well, if you're going to buy low and then you're going to sell high. And I mean, they didn't exactly work that out by selling high. I mean, it got so bad to where they just ended up cutting Cooper Cup. Now, don't get it twisted. Cooper Cup was a triple crown winner, and they just went ahead and let him go. And I understand why they did it, but it's just another situation where if you're too much of a headache and having to rely on an aging wide receiver is a headache. Don't get it twisted there, but if you're having to rely on Cooper Cup to play and he's not playing very often, like yeah, I understand why they let him go. People thought they were crazy, but I didn't.
Yeah, you're gonna be cut if you continuously get injured. Health is a huge problem in the NFL, especially if you're a top player. I remember Cooper Cup in that Super Bowl. He was the best wide receiver in that Super Bowl. I mean, but I wasn't surprised that they cut him. I mean, I was a little surprised because all they have except for him is Puka Nacua, but what are you gonna have except for that? I mean, you got Van Jefferson. I don't know if they still have him, but
No, he is actually with the Steelers.
oh,
Yeah.
Tutu Atwell.
Uh huh. Yeah.
Yeah, like I am. Wouldn't rely on him.
Yeah. I mean, there's lots of teams that made the cut for making great moves, but a lot of people were talking all this crap on on the Eagles, but I don't understand why. Okay, let's just take a look at here. Okay, so they extended Saquon Barkley 2 years, 41.2. They re-signed linebacker Zach Bond, which basically resurrected his career this past season. They traded Kenny Pickett to the Browns, and then in return got Dorian Thompson Robinson. They traded C.J. Gardner Johnson for guard Kenyon Green. They signed A.J. Dillon, signed Josh Uche. They signed Harrison Bryant, tight end. They signed tight end Kylan Granson. By the way, thank you. Now that he's no longer on the Colts, we can breathe again. They signed cornerback Adoree Jackson, and then they also signed outside linebacker Azeez Ajulari. The Eagles, they didn't have a ton of cap space to work with this offseason because they already spent up to build a Super Bowl winning roster. They had to say goodbye to Josh Sweat, Milton Williams, and Darius Slay, among others, but they were able to keep a bond on a deal that compares pretty favorably to the rest of the position after his all pro year. After that, it was mostly just deals to attack the margins. Howie Roseman flipped Pickett for roughly the equivalent value to what he gave up for, to trade for him last year. He dealt Gardner Johnson for a 2026 pick swap and Green. They basically saving millions in the process. While Gardner Johnson is a better player right now than Green, it's easier and cheaper to find starting safeties than it is to find starting guards. And the Eagles offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland has a new former first round reclamation project to work with. Uche and Ojulari are solid flyers on bendy pass rushers to rebuild the rotation after losing Sweat. But if there's one big issue, like, I don't know if the Chiefs are going to make it back to the Super Bowl. The AFC is only getting better. And I understand, you had to make the moves that you did with offensive line, but you're drafting at the bottom of the board. You're drafting at 31. Do you think you're going to find a Trent Williams sitting at 31? No. You're going to find a Trent Williams sitting in the top 10. You're not going to find these monster offensive linemen, these dominant guys at the bottom of the first round. It's just not going to happen. So unless you find a fairy that can give you some pixie dust, I'm not sure you're going to be able to find your offensive line. And then next season, you're going to run into the same issues that you ran into in the Super Bowl. If you run up against a team that has a good defensive line, a front seven, mind you, then you're going to take that L.
Yeah, if you have a bad O line like we saw in the Super Bowl, like everybody saw in the Super Bowl, you're not gonna succeed. You're gonna win as many games as the Bengals do. If they have a great team, the O line hurts them. So maybe they can get an O lineman that can block well enough. But obviously, yeah, they're not going to get a Trent Williams type. But they could find a hidden guy in there. But like you said, they're drafting at the bottom. You don't know what you're going to get out of that. But they do have a good team. I mean, they're suffering with age, obviously, but I think if they get an O-line, they could make a run, but you're going to have rookies on your O-line. You don't know what you're going to get from that.
Yeah. Well, we're not going to do any predictions here, but we will talk about the Sweet 16 just for a little bit. By the way, if you joined my bracket challenge, I thought I was just getting lambasted, and there was no way that I was going to win the bracket challenge. And I'm just saying, I'm beating the crap out of everybody. Oh my gosh, it's amazing. Okay, so in the East region, we got BYU going up against Alabama. I know there's no Cinderellas left, but BYU, I mean, they're about the only Cinderella we got left, even though they're in a Power 5 conference, whatever. And then you have Arizona against Duke. It's going to be Caleb Love up against Duke again. Duke is just way too strong. They have way too much depth. This roster was built with precision, and I am not a Duke guy whatsoever, but man, they look good. They have not had a competitive game yet. I think their last competitive game was for about 5 seconds when they played North Carolina in the ACC tournament. In the West region, and this is going to be in San Francisco. The East region is Newark, New Jersey. The West region, you have number 4 Maryland against Florida. Do I think that Maryland is going to come up with some sort of master game plan to stop Florida's offense? No. The answer is no. Next game is going to be Calipari and his Arkansas Razorbacks against Texas Tech. This is actually a pretty tricky game because Texas Tech is a really good team shooting from the arc. Like, they are really good from the perimeter. They showed it a little bit in this tourney, but not to the point. Like, I remember a game where they played KU and they were just completely lighting up the scoreboard, just three after three after three. And I don't know, this could be a really tough game. I'm talking about it like Arkansas isn't the underdog. Like, they're a 10 seed. It's just whatever. It's Calipari, so you never know what's going to happen. South region in Atlanta, you got Ole Miss against Michigan State, Michigan against Auburn. The crazy thing about Michigan is Scottie Pippen's son transferred after they made it to the Sweet 16, so he's not even been playing in this game. And then Midwest region in Indianapolis, you got Kentucky against Tennessee. That is going to be an amazing game. And you got Purdue against Houston. And do not let this get past you. Purdue is a really sneaky team in this spot.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of Cinderellas in this tournament. A lot of teams that people thought that would beat the other team by a long shot. It just didn't happen in this tournament. I mean, I thought Clemson was going to win that game. They didn't. That Yale was going to win that game. They didn't. But I think anything can happen in this tournament. I'm looking forward to these Duke games. I mean, I don't like Duke.
I think if there's one thing that we found out about this tournament is that we're no longer going to have Cinderellas. Like, all those 12-5 seeds, the 10-7 seeds, 13-4 seeds that we have been accustomed to, at least one, maybe two, making it to like the Sweet 16. Like, you had Utah State a few years ago. Our hometown, Wichita State, when they went 31-0 and made it to, I believe, the Sweet 16 against Kentucky, and then got knocked down. I mean, you had Wichita State when, a few years before that, when they went on a run into the Final Four and ended up losing in the national championship. I don't know if you're going to have any more games like this to where it's just going to be a mid-major, making it into the Sweet 16, causing carnage, and I just don't think it's going to happen anymore.
Yeah, we've already seen it in the starting part of the tournament, but I think it's going to be like purely competitive games moving on. It could be, it could not. You just like I said earlier, I don't know what's going to happen in this tournament. I mean, I don't know how many people are perfect on brackets, but I think a lot of people saw their team going far in the tournament. They didn't. I think it's going to be It's gonna be a good playoffs.
Yeah. SGA for MVP says, I effing hate NIL. It's ruined college sports. Why don't you tell me how you really feel, big guy? No, I won't say that it's ruined it because you got me, you got Jordan that continuously watch it. I won't say that it's ruined it, but it's definitely made college and NCAA take a massive hit when it comes to ratings and all that. I just don't think that it's just the biggest issue is it's like the NFL now. Like you're being paid to play, and these kids they go to college, but how much are you actually going to care about getting a degree when you know that you're going to the NFL, you're going to the NBA, you know that you're going to be drafted? Like it's just hard to comprehend that all you know college sports itself is so down because you're a pay to play. That's all it is.
Yeah, these players nowadays are just pay to play. You can just throw money at um, a 5-star recruit, he'll walk onto you. I mean, if other teams are offering more money, they'll go to them. That's just how it is these days. But I don't think it's ruined sports. I think it's I think these players are just getting overpaid. I mean, they're coming out of high school. They shouldn't be being paid this much unless they're a 5-star recruit.
Yeah, it's just it's bad. Like you're getting players that are getting $2 million. I mean, actually, there's that's not even the record. I think there were multiple players this season that got anywhere from 4 to 7 million. I know Bryce Underwood, um, the quarterback that signed with Michigan after he flipped from LSU. I'm not saying it's strictly about money, but I'm just saying it had a huge factor. Um, I think his was up to like $10 million. Just freaking blows my mind.
Some NFL quarterbacks don't even make that much. He's getting paid that out of high school.
Yeah, I mean it's okay. Let's just go here. The Kansas State Wildcats. They had a player Coleman Hawkins. He transferred, and K State ended up paying him. It was over $2 million. And I mean, the crazy thing about that is it's just the fact that Hawkins he was blasting those who leaked his NIL deal because it created more scrutiny for him. But what do you expect? Like the more money that you make, the more NIL deals that you get, the more you're going to be under a microscope. And it wouldn't be like this if you didn't play like crap all season. Sorry, it had to be said. I'm a K-State guy, and I watched you. Something was off all season long, and he blames NIL. You can't blame NIL. You got $2 million. Whether you make it to the NBA or not, you still got $2 million sitting in your lap, and that's a nice little nest egg to have if even if you don't make it to the NBA.
Yeah, that's something I don't like about NIL. They can offer people a lot of money. They'll just go. I mean,
The NCAA is sick. Yes, yes,
very sick.
but that is going to be it for today's show. Hey, just so everybody knows, there's going to be a live stream on Friday. Yes, a live stream. It is going to be baseball surrounded. I am going to have a special guest with me. One second. Yeah, my special guest is going to be the Wichita Wind Surge general manager, Matt Hamilton. If you do not know who he is or who the Wind Surge is, the Wind Surge is a double A affiliate from the Minnesota Twins. And so they're going to be starting up their season uh, a week from Friday. And so we're going to interview him, uh, see what's going on in his world, how he got started, and give you all the ins and outs of what it's like to be a general manager of a double A minor league baseball team. So that is going to be how that works. That podcast is going to start at 4 p.m. on Friday. Yes, I had to look at my calendar. Leave me alone. But before you guys leave, give this video a thumbs up. Can you do that? YouTubers, it really helps us pop in a big way. Everything is free here. That is all we ask of you. Leave a comment below. So thank you guys for doing that. Also follow us on all social media platforms at Hot Zone Sports and join the sports pages that is meant for you, because this is truly why we do this. For the people. Subscribe to the channel, click the notification button, and have a blessed week. Peace. Oh, yeah.